In honor of my astrology business opening, this is an astrology Q&A. I asked you guys across social media if you had any questions about the stars, be they beginner or advanced, and in this video I will answer them. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel if you're new around here. My name is Hannah Hawthorne and I'm Simply Witched. Before we get straight into the questions, I just want to thank you all for all of your support on my new business. On January 1st, my astrology business opened, and since then I have had the pleasure for reading for quite a few of you. We might talk about my astrology business later in this video, especially if the questions relate to the services that I offer, but if you haven't had a chance to check out my website yet, I would really appreciate it if you did. Without further ado, we're just gonna get right into it because I got a lot of questions for you all and we're gonna try and cover as many as possible. Overwhelmingly, I got a lot of questions about people who are skeptical about astrology, and I totally get it because for a long time I fell into that camp. It just didn't make sense to me how the planets affect us. But they don't. Astrology is not cause and effect. Astrology is a mirror. It is reflecting the fact that things are happening, but it is not making anything happen. Astrology comes down to patterns that have repeated themselves throughout time, dating back to ancient Mesopotamia. From the time the first astrologers and astronomers looked at the stars and realized they were painting pictures above them, they noted when the stars were in certain positions, certain things would happen. Or people who were born under a specific set of stars possess certain characteristics. One of the questions along these lines is, what would you tell a novice witch who's still somewhat skeptical about astrology? And my best advice to you would be to look for the patterns. This is something that you can do with transits or learning the birth charts of the people around you, or even just keeping up to date with the astrological forecasts. Unfortunately, you have to learn a little bit about astrology to be able to know what you're looking for, but once you do, I promise you will see the same things repeated over and over. Along the same line, someone says, how exactly the planets affect us? It's a concept I can't grasp. Many astrologers, including myself, believe that we live in an interconnected universe where everything around us is having a shared personal experience. This is very similar in witchcraft. This is the reason that I believe magic works. So if you think about it that way, perhaps this is not as foreign of a subject to grasp. I cannot tell you why the position of celestial bodies correlates to earthly events, but as someone who looks at this data all the time, I have been proven beyond a reasonable doubt time and time again that there is truth to it. And so I would say that if you're skeptical, there's no harm in trying, learning more about this subject, and seeing if the truths that have been reflected to me are proven the same to you. My birth chart overwhelmed me just looking at it. How do I break it down? Lucky for you, I already have a video for that. It is called How to Read a Birth Chart, and it covers what you are physically looking at. It doesn't talk about meanings, but it'll show you a chart, the circle chart. That is what I recommend learning, no apps. And it explains what every element and piece of it is and says, and it'll give you the tools that you need to be able to read it. What if I don't have any planets in certain houses? If you have a lack of planets in a certain area of your chart, it just means that you will experience less outside forces in terms of the subject that that house rules. So for example, if your 10th house is empty, which rules career, you will have less outside forces working with you or against you in terms of career. That house is still ruled by a sign, and that is going to provide you information. So for example, if your 10th house was ruled by Libra, Libra is all about beauty, diplomacy, balance, and harmony. So you would have a career that was related to those themes. And some careers that are good for people that have Libra ruling their 10th house are judge, event planner, human resource manager, detective, lawyer, recruiter, designer, mediator, architect, manager, hospitality, referee, and guidance counselor. Just because there's no planets in that area, it doesn't mean that person is destined to not have a career. You just look at the zodiac sign that is ruling the house. And if you want to learn what career you should have based on your astrology, I did also do a YouTube video on this. What if the planets in your chart aren't located at home, exalted, exiled, or fallen? This person is talking about essential dignities. The planets are sentient beings, and there are parts of the sky that they like, and there's parts of the sky that they do not. As they travel around to these different spots, if they're in a place that they like, they behave really well and they'll bring you blessings. if they're in a place that they don't really like, they're gonna make your life a little bit more challenging. If a planet is not located in one of its best signs, like something that it's ruling, or one of its worst signs, like something that it's fallen in, it's just going to be average. Why are my natal chart results different from different sources when I enter the same data? Because chart division is different across websites. Chart division is a method of breaking up the sky. Within traditional Hellenistic astrology, which is what I practice, I use whole sign houses. It's what I recommend you use. It makes everything simple and clean. And it is the system that astrology is based upon, so it just works a little better. Today, unfortunately, a lot of websites don't use this, especially none of the apps do. They all use something called Placidus, which isn't wrong, it is just not my preferred method. And depending on which house division any website is using, your placements could be vastly different. Another reason that I recommend whole sign houses is I have found a lot more accuracy in whole sign houses. So if you don't particularly resonate with your birth chart, I highly recommend using whole sign houses. And the video that I talked about at the very beginning, how to read a birth chart, I talk about this, and I talk about how you can use astro.com, which is the website that I use, to get whole sign houses in your birth chart. Does your chart stay the same, or does it change with each given month? Your birth chart never changes. It is a static image of the moment that you were born. It's like you were born and we took a picture of all the planets and where they were located in the sky. The thing that will change, however, are your transits. Transits are just a method of taking the ongoing movements of the planets and applying them to your birth chart. You might hear people say, I have Mercury transiting over my third house. And that is because if you take Mercury, where it's physically in the sky right now, and you put it on top of your birth chart, it is in the third house. So you are experiencing Mercury transiting your third house. This is a great tool for predictive astrology. If you want to see what themes and circumstances are going to arise in your life, you can see how the planets are hanging out in your birth chart and which part of your chart they're activating. Again, you can use astro.com for this, which is the website I recommend for anything astrology related. If I don't know my exact time of birth, how can I know my rising sign? If you don't know your birth chart, it is complicated to break into astrology, but not impossible. If you have the date, you're already in really good shape. Your rising sign has the potential to change every 2.5 hours because what a rising sign is it's the constellation that is rising over the horizon at the moment you were born, and a new one comes up every 2.5 hours. So if you already know the day that you were born, you can generate a chart for every 2.5 hours and see which rising signs pop up throughout that day and see which one feels the most like you. Your rising sign also has a lot to do with your physical body, like how you physically look. So it's a little bit easier to narrow down. On the other hand, if you don't know what day you were born, you are going to need to do a rectification chart, which essentially is using astrology and working backwards to find your birth time based on the experiences you have already had in your life. It is much more complicated. I'm not sure if it's a service that I will ever particularly offer, but there are a lot of astrologers that do it. It is just very meticulous and takes a lot of time, but if you are interested in doing that, there is definitely someone that can help you with it. What the heck are the houses and what do they mean? The houses are the framework of your birth chart. They are not energies or characteristics like the planets or the zodiac signs. Instead, they give context to the landscape of your life that the planets and zodiac signs will influence. They describe things internally, like things about you and characteristics that you have, but also external things, circumstances that you will experience out in the world.
So for example, the second house rules cash and valuables.
So if you have Jupiter in there, which is the planet of abundance, you're probably going to have a very affluent lifestyle, especially if it's in a really luxurious sign like Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. Additionally, Taurus is associated with home and family, so possibly you get your money from your family. Perhaps it is a generational wealth thing. Every aspect of your natal chart is going to provide further insight into who you are, and you kind of add them all together. How can I incorporate astrology into my daily practice? I have two answers for this. One that is purely related to astrology, and one that is informed by magic. Starting out with purely astrology, I recommend checking your transits and just keeping up with the astrological forecast. What is going on? I have made 2 videos in the past along these lines. One of them is about eclipses and the things that I recommend doing and not doing during that time. And the other one is about Mercury retrograde. Knowing when retrogrades are and how they affect you is a great way to make sure that you don't fall to the mercy of them. During Mercury retrograde, everything relating to Mercury gets kind of scrambled, and as Mercury is the planet of communication and travel, that's a good time to check your tires and to check your emails. During Venus retrograde, Venus is the planet of love and beauty, so during its retrograde, those things get scrambled, so I wouldn't make any major changes to your physical appearance. During Mars retrograde, which is the planet of physical energy and aggression, those things get scrambled, so people have trouble standing up for themselves and have a lower sex drive. As far as transits go, I just recommend keeping up to date with them, especially if you're trying to launch major projects. That was my dishwasher. Or you're planning some sort of big trip. Back to the second house, which rules cash and valuables. If you're having Saturn transit that house, which Saturn rules boundaries and limitations, that's gonna let you know that maybe you're gonna have some restrictions placed on your finances soon, so you might not wanna make any large purchases. Like there could be something unexpected in your finances that you're not seeing that you're gonna have to pay for. Perhaps your car is going to break down. Then you could also look at the third house, which rules daily transition, how we get from one place to the next. Is there anything there that points to destruction in that area of your life? Is Mars sitting there, which is the planet of destruction? If I added those things together, I probably would be like, I'm not going to buy this thing right now. As for incorporating astrology into your practice in a more magical sense, you're going to want to try planetary magic. The most common kind of planetary magic is working with the lunar phases, but with all of the attention on the lunar phases, a lot of the other planets get left by the wayside. You can work with any of the celestial bodies in your practice, and they all have timing like the moon does. I like to work with the sun in my practice based on if it is sunrise, high noon, or sunset. But I also like to track the sun as it moves through different constellations, the zodiac signs, and plan my workings accordingly. For example, at the time of filming, it is Capricorn season. The sun entered Capricorn on the winter solstice. While the sun transitions through Capricorn, I like to work spells for ambition, banishing debt, boundaries, elimination, foundations, health, organization, structure, and endurance. Additionally, all of the zodiac signs and planets have correspondences. So a few for Capricorn are deities: Aphrodite, Freya, Gaia, Hecate, Juno, Dionysus, and Pan. Colors are black, dark green, indigo, maroon, tarot card, the devil. Stones: black diamond, bloodstone, malachite, obsidian. Flora is spruce, elm, cypress, elder, cinnamon, patchouli, rue. And some fauna are snow goose, heron, owl, dolphin, and goat. I use these correspondences to create rituals. So during Capricorn season, these are a lot of the elements that I'll be using in my practice. Additionally, there are planetary days and hours. So Saturday is ruled by Saturn, Sunday is ruled by the sun, Monday is ruled by the moon, so on and so forth. And that is all the questions that I'm going to answer today, but I hope this video was helpful for you. I love doing Q&As and answering your questions, and I'm actually gonna start doing this live on my Twitch from time to time. So if that sounds like something that you would like to see and be able to ask me questions in real time, interact with me and the other community members, make sure that you follow me there. There is a link down below to all of my other platforms, including Twitch, as well as to buy my book and to book a reading with me if you would like. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, have a magical rest of your day. Blessed be, and goodbye, everyone.